I would say that support is probably the most misunderstood role in all of Overwatch 2. A lot of support players I talk to feel like they don't have control over the game and they're just along for the ride at the mercy of whatever teammates they happen to queue into. But in the right hands, supports can be some of the most influential characters in your entire team. Not only do they offer strong healing, which is such a core mechanic in Overwatch 2, but they also put up damage numbers that can rival even strong DPS players, as well as have some of the strongest abilities in the entire game. I mean, you've got speed boost, resurrection, discord orb, immortality field, the list goes on. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the support role and giving you guys some tips to help you carry in your games. And I'm not just saying that, I really believe supports can be some of the hardest carries in Overwatch 2. If you're looking for other ways to improve your support gameplay, or any other role for that matter, you should head over to GameLeap.com. Over on our website, we've got hundreds of guides made by top level coaches and more are being added every single week. So if you're looking for some more detailed information with stuff like hero guides or matchup knowledge, you will find it over there. So if you're really trying to improve and rank up this season, then check out the links below this video or head on over to GameLeap.com and get your membership started today. Alright, let's get the easy one out of the way. You already know it's coming. You don't want to be a HEALBOT. Yes, healing is very important, and yes, you can outplay your enemies by having clutch healing moments, but at the end of the day, if you really want to carry, you need to do more. You need to find more value with utility from your cooldowns and do more damage. Some supports are really well geared to doing damage, like Baptiste, Kiriko, or Zen, who can easily weave damage in with their kits without taking away from any of their healing output. Other supports have to make more proactive choices whether or not they want to lean more into healing or more into damage, like with Mercy toggling between her two different beams, or Moira throwing either a healing or a damage orb. Whatever the case, if you lean too hard into the healing end of your kit, it's going to feel like you're falling behind, like you're just trying to keep up with your team rather than make your own plays and take control of the game yourself. So if you're looking for more opportunities to get aggressive and do damage, here's some things you can keep in mind. Healing and defensive use of your cooldowns should be prioritized when you are needing to relieve pressure, and damage or utility from your cooldown should be used when you're trying to create pressure. So what do I mean by that? You want to relieve pressure whenever anyone else except for you is popping off or making a play. That can be a teammate or an enemy. You'll want to make whatever play your teammate is making as easy and successful for them as possible by relieving any pressure that they're taking when they get aggressive themselves. And if an enemy's going aggressive, say an enemy starts using their ultimate for example, we'll need to focus on healing and using defensive cooldowns to relieve the pressure that might even be putting onto us or the rest of our team. But here's the deal, pressure doesn't last forever. So whenever that teammate gets aggressive, or whenever the enemy ult timer is running out, those things will come to a close, and that's when you'll want to create pressure for yourself instead. The moment you see a teammate backing off of a play, or after your enemies have used all their cooldowns and they start backing up themselves, that's when you want to get more aggressive and apply more pressure from your own kit. Doing this makes it easier for that teammate to kite back into safe space because now the enemy's dealing with a new threat that they can't just ignore, and after an enemy's play, it makes it harder for them to punish you because they've likely already used all their important cooldowns and won't be able to make a new play until they come back. If during these moments all you're doing is sitting back comfortably and trying to keep your teammates healthy, saving all your important cooldowns, you are missing opportunities. You are falling behind in the pace of the game, and you're not going to be able to carry these situations as often. In order to make your best and strongest plays in these aggressive moments, you're going to want to have a full kit available to you. That's why my next piece of advice is to stop wasting your cooldowns. I have seen players at every single rank wasting cooldowns consistently. It's a very common problem, so I don't care how good you think you are, there's definitely something you can do to improve in this area. Here's the good news. There are only 3 areas you need to think about where you might be overusing or wasting cooldowns. You want to avoid using them on yourself, you want to avoid using them before the fight starts, and you want to avoid using them when they simply aren't needed. So starting with using cooldowns on yourself, I'm talking about times when you're forcing to nade yourself as Ana or TPing out of an aggressive position as Kiriko just to keep yourself alive when you probably could have just positioned better. There will be, of course, times you need to react this way. I'm not saying hold on to your cooldowns if it's going to get you killed, but you want to be looking at your positioning if this is a common occurrence where you're constantly falling behind in your cooldown economy just because you're getting poked out too often or because you're just positioned too aggressively in a fight. I'm not going to go super in depth about positioning in this video. We've got some other videos on the channel if you want to check those out, but what you want to be looking out for here are key areas with natural cover and making sure you are not the first person available for the enemy to shoot at. So you don't want to be too far in front of your team, you don't want to be in open space, stuff like that. Next, if you find yourself wasting too many cooldowns before a fight even starts, you probably need to work on your patience. Like I mentioned, you have some of the most influential cooldowns in the entire game. But unfortunately, on the support role, not many characters have opportunities to create solo plays or find solo kills. Yes, I know you can land double headshots as Kiriko or hit a nice volley as Zenyatta, but those are not situations that you can always play for. So being patient here really just means recognizing that you need the help and support, funnily enough, of your teammates in order to take any value you find from your aggression and cooldowns and secure that into a kill. The most common example I see literally every single day of my life is when Anas will use their sleep dart or anti-nade and just throw them across the entire map and maybe even hit something. Maybe they'll sleep the tank, maybe they'll nade 5 people, but it just doesn't matter. If you instead time those cooldowns when your tank is pushing into them or when your DPS are diving them, that will almost certainly secure a kill, but wasting them too early just makes you miss out on those opportunities instead. So again, the key here is just to work on your patience, and the best way to do that is to just put more attention into your teammates. See when they're engaging and help them, don't try to find and start a fight on your own. And thirdly, we never want to be wasting cooldowns when they aren't explicitly needed. If we could have survived a situation just by getting some healing or by backing off and changing our position, that's better than having to use every cooldown in our kit when they could have been used later on in the fight instead. A good rule of thumb here is that when you're reacting defensively, your healing should be enough to respond to just pure damage threats like bullets flying into your teammates, but you'll want to be saving your cooldowns for reacting to specific enemy cooldowns or ultimates. So when the Winston is jumping in or when Tracer's triple blinking into your backline, that's when you'll need those big cooldowns. What you're working on here when you're trying to decide when exactly to use all of your different cooldowns is your awareness, specifically your awareness to enemy threats. You need to pinpoint specific members of the enemy team and determine when those enemies are becoming the most threatening that they can be. The main things you'll be looking out for are heroes with a ton of mobility or just heroes that can offer a ton of burst damage off of their cooldowns. As long as you have your defensive cooldowns available whenever those things are coming online, then you should be able to react to those situations and stabilize things for you and your team. But this is just the tip of the iceberg of working on your awareness. It's one thing to know what your threats are and how you're going to want to react to them, but it's another thing entirely to know exactly when and where to use your cooldowns, and those things will change depending on what heroes you're playing against, what types of positionings you're dealing with, and all sorts of different factors. This is a very open-ended piece of advice. You're never going to have perfect awareness in every situation, but you always want to be working to improve it. So try to make sure you're always trying to squeeze the absolute most amount of value from every single one of your important cooldowns. And I'll add on here that, of course, all these concepts that we're talking about when it comes to cooldowns apply double, if not triple, when it comes to using your ultimate. You don't want to be wasting those either, so put your attention into all these areas when it comes to ultimate usage as well. Just focusing in these two areas, stopping yourself from heal-botting and looking for aggressive opportunities, as well as making sure you've got cooldowns for those opportunities, is enough to help you improve at support and find more situations where you can carry. But unfortunately, since we're playing the support role, we do need to be a little bit realistic with our expectations. Again, a lot of our value comes from supporting our teammates and making their value more explosive rather than going off on our own solo plays. So my next piece of advice is to find value that works for you and your team. Support heroes will offer vastly different forms of utility and damage output and will find more or less value depending on what type of game they find themselves in. If you're not able to find your specific brand of value just because of the heroes your teammates are locking in or what map you're playing on, you might need to try swapping up your playstyle or potentially switch heroes entirely. Let's take a support like Mercy as an example here. The majority of her utility comes from her blue beam, her damage boost. But if you don't have a strong DPS partner who's going to benefit from that damage boost, or maybe you do but they're just not hitting any shots, you're not really going to be able to leverage that utility over the enemy team, so you might need to try changing things up. To be clear, I'm not saying you need to swap just because of a few bad plays or things like that, but if you really want to be able to carry these games, you need to make sure that whatever utility or damage you're providing is landing into the enemy team. If it's not, then you're losing control over the game. Some supports need to lean heavily into their teammates to find value from their utility. Mercy's damage boost is a great example, or another one might be Lucio's speed aura. But if your teammates aren't able to find strong value while using that utility, you might want to try swapping into a more solo-oriented support. Someone like Baptiste or Zenyatta who can weave in damage without depending on an ally to do so. Leaning more into these individually focused heroes can allow you to play more like a DPS than just a support in certain situations. Of course, you're not going to ignore things like healing and still playing around your teammates, but in this way you'll be able to find your own value regardless of what your teammates are doing, and you'll be able to play more independently and take more control over the game. You might be thinking to yourself, but I'm playing support, I shouldn't need to do all these things, that's the job of my tank or my DPS. And you're not wrong per se, but if you have that mindset, then the moment you go into these situations and you have underperforming teammates, you will be lost and you won't be able to do anything. By following the advice in this video, you'll hopefully have a game plan that you can use without depending on your teammates that helps you find more aggressive value and helps get things going in the right direction for you and your teammates. So let me know down in the comments, who's your go-to solo carry support pick? Who are you picking when everything else goes wrong in order to try and wrestle control back over the game? If you're looking for other ways to improve your support gameplay, or any other role for that matter, you should head over to GameLeap.com. Over on our website, we've got hundreds of guides made by top level coaches and more are being added every single week. So if you're looking for some more detailed information with stuff like hero guides or matchup knowledge, you will find it over there. So if you're really trying to improve and rank up this season, then check out the links below this video or head on over to GameLeap.com and get your membership started today. That's going to be it from me today, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys in the next one.